How's it going, Saltlings? It's the OG Salt Shaker here for your weekly dose of Magic Sodium Collision. Gonna do something a little different this week, as pre-release for Eldritch Moon is this Friday night. Going to do a rare and up set review for you guys. I know I said I was going to do a full set review, but I tried recording that once already, and that took me over an hour. So we're just going to do the rares, keep it short, sweet, to the point. So without further ado, let's drop ourselves in. We're in for a bumpy ride. Before we get started, I just wanted to take a quick look at the new mechanics that are going to be featured in Eldritch Moon, primarily Meld, Escalate, and Emerge. Meld is a different, slightly more twisted take on your typical double face cards. In order for two cards to meld, certain criteria have to be met, but once those criteria are met, then both cards are exiled and then returned to the battlefield transformed to reveal their monstrous backside. No pun intended. The second new mechanic we're being introduced to is called Escalate. It's kind of reminiscent of the old school mechanic Kicker, in which you can pay the normal CMC of a card, but then get additional effects if you put more into it. The third new mechanic we're getting in Eldritch Moon is called Emerge. Emerge is an alternate casting cost that can be achieved by sacrificing one creature that you control and reducing the Emerge cost by the sacrificed creature's CMC. Alright, into the white. First up, we have Collective Effort. It's 1 and double white for a sorcery. With Escalate, tap an untapped creature you control. Choose one or more, destroy target creature with power 4 or greater, destroy target enchantment, or put a +1/+1 counter on each creature target player controls. I think this is pretty darn good. Generally in the past, any cards with multiple modes are pretty good, i.e. Cryptic Command in Modern and other stuff like that. Can you play Cryptic in Modern? Yeah. Yes. That was stupid. Don't ask why. Dramoka's Command more recently in the standard meta. So I can definitely see this playing a big part in token strategies. The 3 mana alone for the pump is pretty darn good. Also the destroy an enchantment or destroy a big creature, destroy your opponent's only blocker is also pretty good. Deploy the Gatewatch, 4 and double white for a sorcery. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. Put up to 2 Planeswalker cards from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This card was made for people who want to run Super Friends. 6 mana for 2 walkers, given you could whiff, but you could also whiff on Coco, and Coco sees a buttload of play. Being able to pay 6 mana and get 2 super high costing Planeswalkers, say like Nahiri and Sorin, both off of this thing, it's pretty darn sweet. Especially in like a EDH setting, where I know definitely this is going to get thrown into some 5-color Super Friends decks, or even maybe some like, I don't know, Fringe Tron Modern decks. Blue-White Tron, or just Karn and Ugin off of this thing. I mean, definitely blow some people out. Providence, 5 and double white for a sorcery. You may reveal this card from your opening hand. If you do, at the beginning of your first upkeep, your life total becomes 26. And then once you cast it, your life total becomes 26. Generally, revealing cards from your opening hand are pretty powerful. Here's looking at the ley lines, for instance. And in standard, to bump your life up to 26, and then later be able to cast this and bump your life back up to 26 it's okay. I mean, the 7 mana might be an issue for some people, especially because some of these human decks are winning on turn 4, turn 5. Being able to hit 7 mana may be an issue for some decks. This card might be too slow, but we will definitely see within the coming weeks. Sanctifier of Souls. This is the intro pack rare for white. 3 and a white for a human cleric. 'Tis a 2/3 Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Sanctifier of Souls gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Then it's got a activated ability, 2 and a white, exile a creature card from your graveyard, put a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. This guy's self-sufficient, as in if you have cards in your graveyard, you can just make a bunch of 1/1 spirits. But a 4-drop for a 2/3 that only pumps itself when you exile things or play other creatures for the turn, I don't think this is going to see much play. This might be like a bomb in sealed, because just being able to pump out spirits seems pretty good, and evasion in the sealed pools are pretty strong. Don't see this getting past your draft decks, though. Like, definitely not standard playable, in my opinion. Selfless Spirit, speaking of not standard playable, I'm going to play this in standard. Selfless Spirit is a 1 and a white for a Spirit Cleric creature. A 2/1 with flying. So, 2 mana for a 2/1 with flying is already pretty good. And then you can sacrifice it, and creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. The biggest problem I was running into with my blue-white Spirits deck in standard is the fact that I have to chump block sometimes, and I lose my value Spirits. But with this thing out, oh my goodness. Being able to return this thing with Ojutai's Command, flashing this thing in with Rattle Chains, the possibilities are endless. Especially if, I think there was a modern Spirits deck going around. Being able to give your Geist to Saint Traft indestructible is pretty darn good too. Sigarda's Aid, 1 white for an enchantment. You may cast aura and equipment spells as though they had flash, and whenever an equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach it to target creature you control. This is pretty good. Currently in the standard meta, I don't know if this is going to see a lot of play. With Kaladesh coming out, we might get some equipment love, but as of right now, I don't foresee this being anything. It might be used for the aura flash in pacifism, stuff like that. As for modern, I heard some people tossing around the idea with Boggles. I think this kind of counteracts your whole Boggles play, because on your turn 1, you don't want to be casting an enchantment. You want to be getting your Boggle out, and the next turn throwing auras onto it, and you don't want to be wasting your mana to cast this, which just gives your auras flash, which you're just going to cast auras on your turn anyways, because you want to get beats in. So I don't think this is going to see play in Modern. Probably play in EDH, because all the quality artifacts in EDH. This is where it's going to get bonkers with the new Thalia. Old Thalia was good. New Thalia is really good. Thalia, Heretic Cathar. 2 and a white for a legendary human soldier. It's a 3/2 with first strike, which is already pretty darn good. But creatures and non-basic lands your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. Wow. Blind Obedience was in Ravnica, Return to Ravnica, which was a 2-mana enchantment, which creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. But 3 mana for a 3/2 first striking creature with that ability, and non-basic lands as well. This is like hate bear fodder. If you're playing hate bears, you're going to want to play this in Modern. Fetches come in tapped, shocks come in tapped regardless. If in Standard we have Evolving Wilds, that's going to come in tapped, so that much worse. Shadowlands, Battlelands regardless come in tapped. Tron lands in Modern come in tapped. This card is really darn good. Another Thalia, turn 2 Old Thalia, turn 3 New Thalia. White decks everywhere just hit the walls when this card got spoiled. And to follow up, Thalia's Lancers. 3 double white for a human knight. It's a 4/4 with first strike, which is pretty darn good. But when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a legendary card, reveal it, and put it in your hand, then shuffle. This will see EDH play, just because it's a tutor, and it's also a solid 4/4 body with first strike for 5 mana. Standard, I think it's a little bit slow. Modern is definitely way too slow, unless you can cheat it out early. Don't think this is going to see much play in Standard, although I could be wrong if the meta shifts. Maybe once Kaladesh comes out. But as of right now, it's just going to be in those EDH decks. This is going to be the complete opposite. Gisela the Broken Blade, our first look at meld cards. 2 double white for a legendary creature, Angel Horror. She's a 4/3 with flying first strike and lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, if you both own and control Gisela the Broken Blade and a creature named Bruna the Fading Light, exile them, then meld them into Brizella Voice of Nightmares. First of all, a 4 mana for a 4/3 flying first strike lifelink. Stupid good. Stupid good. This card itself is going to be a bomb in limited. It's going to see standard play. It might see modern play. It's definitely going to see EDH play. Dare I say as a commander? I don't know. But just a 4-drop, 4/3 flying first strike lifelink. Stupid good. And pairing her with Bruna the Fading Light, 5 and double white for a legendary Angel Horror. She's a 5/7 with flying and vigilance. And when you cast Bruna the Fading Light, you may return target angel or human creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So here's the thing. You cast Gisela early, you get some life gain, do some swinging, she dies. Boo-hoo. Gets ultimate priced or whatnot. You cast Bruna later, you get Gisela back from your graveyard, and then at your end step, Gisela's ability triggers and you meld the two. Bonkers. When you meld them, turns into Brizella Voice of Nightmares, a legendary Eldrazi angel creature, a 9/10 with flying first strike vigilance lifelink, and your opponents can't cast spells with converted mana cost 3 or less. Note the flavor win here. If you take Gisela and Bruna's power and toughness and add them together, it equals Brizella's. That's a side note. The fact that your opponents can't cast spells with converted mana cost 3 or less, so strong. That means she's dodging almost every kill spell in the format, whether it be ultimate price. You can't even ultimate price her because she's colorless. Sacrifice an attacking creature. What's that? The black target opponent sacks a creature with delirium. To the slaughter, dodges that. Dodges clip wings, which is huge right now. The only way you can get rid of her is really with a board wipe. Like, Stasis Snare doesn't work because it's CMC 3. You play this against a weenie deck, shut down. Shut down. You play this against the Bank Coco decks running around standard right now, the only thing they can do is Coco. The only thing they can do is Coco. They can't cast any of their creatures because all their creatures are CMC 3 or less to get hit by Collected Company. This just shuts down an entire deck. This is stupid good. Given it's a little hard to get out and you need them both out, but I mean, if you do, please, somebody get this and sealed. And I just want you to blow people out of the water. This card is really good, super flavorful, and it's going to be bonkers. Alright, next up we have blue. We're going to start with Coax from the Blind Eternities. 2 and a blue for a sorcery. You may choose an Eldrazi card you own from outside the game or in exile. Reveal that card and put it into your hand. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. From outside the game, I'm going to grab everything I want and put it into my hand. That's not how it works in competitive. How it works in competitive play or sanctioned events, you can only grab from your sideboard. Still, though, a 3-drop sorcery tutor that lets you grab any Eldrazi from your sideboard is pretty sweet. I mean, even if it gets exiled via Stasis Snare or any sort of declaration in stone, if you play Emrakul or Ulamog or Kozilek in the standard meta right now, chances are it might get deck stoned, so it's exiled, declaration in stone. But you can grab it back with this thing. This is going to be amazing in Modern too, I feel. Mono Blue Tron once again. Drop this on turn 3. Get an Eldrazi from your sideboard, put it into your hand. This not only hits creatures, but it also hits sorceries as well. So things like All Is Dust. If you know you're against an aggro deck in Modern, play this on turn 3 or whatnot, grab All Is Dust, board wipe. This card is pretty good. It'll see decent standard play. It'll be fringe in most cases. Modern, if Mono Blue Tron really takes off, then definitely. Identity Thief. This is your intro pack rare for blue. It's 2 and double blue for a shapeshifter. It's a 0/3. When he attacks, you may exile another target non-token creature. If you do, Identity Thief becomes a copy of that creature until end of turn. Return the exiled card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. Interesting thing about this, you can exile your opponent's creatures. Note, it does not say another target creature you control. It's another target non-token creature. So they've got Ulamog out, or Emrakul even, declares attacks, bounce their Emrakul, and now you've got a flying 13/13 swinging in. That's pretty good. This is pretty good. Given it's very situational, you go up against a weenie deck and you've got this thing, best thing you're copying is like a 2/3. I don't know. Very situational. Probably really good and limited if you can copy your opponent's bomb and kill them with it. That would feel real good. Imprisoned in the Moon. 2 and a blue for an enchantment aura. Enchant creature, land, or planeswalker. Enchanted permanent is a colorless land with tap. Add 1 colorless to your mana pool and loses all other card types and abilities. Song of the Dryad, anyone? I mean, blue is looking pretty solid. Couple this with Sigarda's Aid, and you can flash this in. But just even the fact to turn off a Planeswalker for 3 mana, hello, turning off a Planeswalker, turning off a creature, a huge creature. Slap this on Ulamog or Kozilek or even Emrakul, flavor win. Even a land, I don't know if you'd throw this on, like maybe a man land in Modern. This is really good. This is a really good aura. I mean, I'm definitely going in my standard deck. Speaking of going in my standard deck, excuse me, Mausoleum Wanderer. 1 blue for a 1/1 spirit with flying. Whenever another spirit enters the battlefield under your control, Mausoleum Wanderer gets +1/+1 until end of turn. And then you can sacrifice Mausoleum Wanderer, counter target instant or sorcery spell unless its controller pays X, where X is Mausoleum Wanderer's power. This thing couples so well with Rattle Chains that's not even funny. Being able to flash in spirits on your turn, or even Sanctifier of Souls. The intro pack rare in white. Exiling cards from your graveyard to just drop in spirits, pump this guy, and then sack it. This card is reminiscent of Judge's Familiar from Return to Ravnica, where it was a 1 blue or white for a 1/1 flyer that you could sack and counter target instant or sorcery unless they paid 1. And that saw play. So I can only imagine this thing's going to see play. Might see play in the blue-white spirits deck running around in Modern. Definitely going to see play in the blue-white standard spirits. This card is stupid good, and I'm super excited to play it. Mind's Dilation. 5 and double blue for an enchantment. When an opponent casts his or her first spell each turn, that player exiles the top card of his or her library. If it's a non-land card, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. 7 mana. If you're playing a control deck in Standard, you love this card. You love this card. I mean, they go to cast something at the start of their turn, and you exile the top card and get Emrakul for free, or an Ulamog for free, or a board wipe for free, or a kill spell. This is just good. Okay, it might be a little slow with the 7 mana cost, but I think this is pretty scary in the right situation. Once again, completely situational, just like Identity Thief. If they're playing a weenie deck and they're going to blow you out by turn 4 or 5. You're never going to hit this. And it's just a dead card in your hand. Niblis of Frost, 2 double blue for a 3/3 flying spirit with prowess. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, tap target creature an opponent controls. That creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. Now, this is interesting. I don't know how I feel about it. I really don't know how I feel about it. Like, it might see play in the blue-white spirits deck just because it's a spirit and it has prowess and that ability's pretty good. But the 4 mana cost seems a bit high for me. Given if it was a 3 mana, like a 3-drop for all those spells, it would be stupid broken. But I just think that in the spirits deck, you don't want to be dropping this. Maybe not. We'll see what happens when it comes out. Summary Dismissal, speaking of 4-drop good cards. 2 double blue for an instant. Exile all other spells and counter all abilities. Whew. Mind Trap? Mind Trap, is that it? The one that's modern legal, where if your opponent casts 3 or more spells, you may cast it for free and you exile all other spells in the stack. This is your Eldrazi stopper. As you exile the spell on the stack, i.e. the Eldrazi, and counter its cast trigger, this is really good. This is probably going to be 1 or 2 main board for all control decks, and then the other 2 or 3 in the sideboard. This is definitely modern playable. EDH playable. This might be a bit much in sealed. But given your opponent's only bomb is Emrakul, and you do this on them, they are just going to cry. This is definitely going to see standard play, mark my words. Wharf Infiltrator, 1 and a blue for a human horror, 1/1 with Skulk. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. And whenever you discard a creature card, you may pay 2 mana. If you do, put a 3/2 colorless Eldrazi horror creature token onto the battlefield. The low power and Skulk feels real good, which means it can only be blocked by like tokens. But if it deals combat damage, you can draw a card, discard a card. You can fuel the Eldrazi machine with your discards. Probably going to see standard play in some of these new like low cost Eldrazi token decks. Even blue-white humans. This feeds blue-white humans pretty well. Drop this on turn 2. Swing. Deals damage. Discard another cheap human. Get a 3/2. This might see standard play. It's going to be really good in sealed, though, if you can just draft a bunch of creatures. If you're playing draft and you get this and you just draft a bunch of creatures and then just start ditching them to make 3/2 Eldrazi's. It feels pretty good. The first of our true flip cards, Docent of Perfection, 3 double blue for a 5/4 insect horror with flying. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a 1/1 blue human wizard creature token onto the battlefield. Then, if you control 3 or more wizards, transform Docent of Perfection. Before we transform it and discuss the backside, a 5-drop for a 5/4 with flying that pumps out dudes. Pretty sweet. You get this thing as your pre-release promo, and you just build a instant sorcery deck with this thing. It's gonna feel good. We might even get like standard decks built around this card because the backside super scary. Final Iteration is a 6/5 Eldrazi insect with flying. Wizards you control get +2/+1 and have flying. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a 1/1 blue human wizard creature token onto the battlefield. This is nuts. Okay? This is nuts. Not only does it make a baby Jace a 2/3 with flying, all of the tokens it just pumped out pumps them and gives them flying. This is super strong. Like, and it doesn't flip back. It's just a 6/5 flying that makes 3/2s with flying whenever you cast an instant or sorcery. This card, dare I say, amazing? I mean, it's a definite flavor win from the original Innistrad Delver of Secrets. And then Shadows over Innistrad, we got, like, its part 2. And this is its final part 3. And it is scary looking. Not to mention super ugly. Oh boy. Alright, into the black cards. Black's been really, like, lacking lately. So let's hope that this can turn it around. Collective Brutality. A 1 and a black for a sorcery with Escalate, discard a card. Choose one or more. Target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose an instant or sorcery from it. That player discards that card. Target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. Target opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Meh. Pretty sure we still have Duress in the format. So being able to do that for 1 mana instead of 2. Maybe in sealed this will be good. I don't see this being standard playable though. Standard playable, hello. Crypt Breaker for 1 black. For a 1/1 zombie. 1 and a black, tap it, discard a card, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield. That's pretty good. Being able to ditch zombies in your yard, make zombies, and then bring the zombies in your yard back with other zombie reanimator spells, which are there quite a few. And then its second ability is tap 3 untapped zombies you control. You draw a card and lose a life. Card draw in zombies, being able to, like, stack your hand and then ditch your hand with this ability and then bring all your zombies back. Prized Amalgam style, new Gisa and Geralf. Being able to cast zombies from your yard once a turn. We needed a good 1-drop zombie, and I'm pretty sure this fits the bill. Dark Salvation. For, XX black sorcery. Target player puts X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens onto the battlefield. Then up to 1 target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn for each zombie that player controls. This is Emrakul Killer, considering it's a sorcery, and you can just dump mana into it. This is pretty good. This is kind of like a big late game blowout for zombie decks. If they've got a big beater and you just blow this in sealed, is going to be really good. If you get this in sealed and this is your bomb, you're going to most likely win. If you're not playing on the back foot and you slam this, you're probably going to win. Might see standard play in a black-blue zombies deck. Probably not going to see modern play. Probably EDH play, because EDH, everyone loves those wacky cards. The Last Hope. Liliana, The Last Hope. For 1 double black. She's a 3 loyalty planeswalker. Her +1 is up to 1 target creature gets -2/-1 until your next turn. -2, put the top 2 cards from your library into your graveyard. Then you may return a creature from your graveyard to your hand. And then her ultimate, -7, is you get an emblem with, at the beginning of your end step, put X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens onto the battlefield, where X is 2 plus the number of zombies you control. From the top down, her plus is pretty good because it's until your next turn. So it's not meant to kill things, it's meant to slow them down. Her -2 is really good. Self-mill, put something back into your hand. Her ult, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. If you can get this, your zombies just grow exponentially every turn. Pretty sure somebody said if you play this and then you have no zombies out, I think 4 or 5 turns later you end up having 139 zombies was the calculation. Regardless, exponential growth of zombies. Disgustingly good. Noose Graph Mob. This is your black intro pack rare. For 4 double black is a 0/0 zombie. It enters the battlefield with 5 +1/+1 counters on it. Whenever player casts a spell, remove a +1/+1 counter from Newsgraph mob. If you do, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token on the battlefield. So this is for those, wow, actually, whenever a player casts a spell. Wow, that's pretty good. Stick this, and then when anybody casts a spell, you get a zombie. And then with all the reanimator stuff, you just bring this thing back. Wow. That's a lot better than I thought. Not bad. This is really good and sealed, for one. Standard play, most likely in the zombie deck. I mean, it's a solid 6-drop with reanimation on it. Modern, probably not. And then in terms of EDH, if you're building a zombie tribal? Maybe? I don't know. Thraxamundar? Alright, moving on. Oath of Liliana. 2 and a black for legendary enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent sacks a creature. At the beginning of each end step, if a planeswalker entered the battlefield under your control, this turn, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield. It's okay. I mean, making an opponent sack a creature would be good if there weren't so many token strats running around right now. And the 2/2 zombie is pretty good because it protects the walker if they don't have a way to protect themselves. Like, you play this on 3 and then say Gideon on 4, and you make a dude, all of a sudden you've got 2 2/2s out to block for Gideon, which is a pretty solid play. Standard playable, Super Friends deck, probably. Modern, don't think so. EDH, Super Friends, probably. Stormkirk Condemned, double black for a 2/2 vampire horror. Discard a card. Vampires you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Activate this ability only once each turn. This is pretty good. It fuels the red-black Madness vampire decks. It also pumps your vampires for a turn, which is also pretty good, considering they were kind of lacking a finisher. This would be it. Pumping all of your guys and just swinging for face. The downside is you can only activate it once per turn. But still, if you're in the whole red-black aggro vampire strategies, you're going to have a bunch of creatures, and the +1/+1 might just get you there. Also, the discarding a card with Madness is pretty good. Tree of Perdition, Holy Flavor. 3 and a black for a 0/13 plant with Defender. Tap it, exchange target opponent's life total with Tree of Perdition's toughness. This works so well in conjunction with Triskaidekaphobia, which is at, I think, the beginning of your upkeep. Each player with 13 life loses the game, and then there's 2 possible triggers, like each player gains a life or each player loses a life. But if you have this, and then Triskaidekaphobia's ability goes on the stack, and you activate Tree of Perdition, you make their life total 13, and then Triskaidekaphobia kills them. Oh my goodness. Also, this was the old Tree of... Oh my goodness. What was it called? Absolution? I'm Googling it. Because I'm cheating. That's not it. Tree of what? If you know, drop it in the comments below. This is gonna bug me. I gotta Google it. Tree of Redemption, which is from original Innistrad. 3 and a green for a 0/13 Defender. Exchange your life total with Tree of Redemption's toughness. So it's like the kind of complete opposite, which is awesome flavor. Like, this set is dripping in flavor. It's like Gordon Ramsay cooked this himself. This set is flawless. I love it. Voldaren Pariah. 3 double black for a 3/3 vampire horror. Flying. Madness cost triple black. Sacrifice 3 other creatures. Transformer. Okay. 5 mana for a 3/3 flyer is eh. But the Madness cost is pretty darn good. You managed to cheat this out on turn 3. That's not bad. That is not bad at all. Then you sacrifice 3 of the creatures and transform her into Abolisher of Bloodlines. Excuse me. She's a 6/5 flyer. And when this creature transforms into Abolisher of Bloodlines, target opponent sacrifices 3 creatures. In Limited, you're going to blow someone out with this. As creature abundancy in Limited is not always that great. In Standard meta right now, you're going to run into a lot of token decks. I can almost guarantee it. There's going to be a lot of token, whether it's Thopters, whether it's just mono-white humans, whether it's green-white humans, so you're getting Nissa tokens and Gideon tokens and all this kind of stuff. They have a lot of weenie creatures as well. It could be really good, depending on the entirely situational, making them sack 3 creatures. But still, if you manage to flip her, you can flip her on what, turn 4? Yeah? Like, say, Falconwrath Gorger on 1. The Stormkirk. Stormkirk Condemned on 2 with the discard a card ability. And then just drop her on turn 3 with the Madness. And then sack those creatures the next turn to flip her. Having a 6/5 on turn 4 and your opponent having no creatures, probably pretty strong. I'm going to say that's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. Red. Okay. We are a significant way through. Let's power through the red. Starting with Assembled Alphas. This is your intro pack rare for red. It's 5 and a red for a 5/5 wolf. When it blocks or becomes blocked by a creature, Assembled Alpha deals 3 damage to that creature and 3 damage to that creature's controller. Sealed, super good. Not only can you play this and threaten to get 3 damage through every turn guaranteed, but you can keep this up to block and bolt your opponent if they try to attack you. This is a pretty solid card. Given the 6 mana cost is a little high for my taste, especially in a wolf deck, but it's a 5/5 with the potential of doing 8 damage. That's pretty good. This thing trample. Pretty sure that flash enchantment gives all wolves and werewolves you control +1/+1 in trample. This red-green werewolves is gonna be strong, people. Probably not as strong as I'd like, but hopefully it gets there. Bedlam Reveler. It's a 6 double red for a 3/4 Devil Horror. It costs 1 less to cast for each instant and sorcery in your graveyard. It has prowess, and when it enters the battlefield, discard your hand and draw 3 cards. This is interesting. Early game, mid game, pretty darn good. Emerge cost? Anyone? This thing's an 8-drop. Removing 8 generic from an emerge cost is pretty good. You can cheese this guy out if you're running like an instant sorcery deck with this guy and the Dawson of Perfection, the blue flip rare that makes 1/1s. I can see these cards working in great conjunction with each other. Collective Defiance, 1 and double red for a sorcery. Escalate, just pay 1. Choose 1 or more. Target player discards all the cards in his or her hand, then draws that many cards. Collective Defiance deals 4 damage to target creature, or Collective Defiance deals 3 damage to target opponent. Being able to empty and refill your hand, in most cases, would be pretty good. Dealing 4 damage to a creature is usually pretty good, and bolting your opponent is also pretty good. Being able to all those for 5 mana is pretty sweet. We'll probably see this feature some play. It's pretty good in sealed, as removal is generally pretty good in sealed. Modern, highly unlikely. Harmless Offering. This card is interesting. It's 2 and a red for a sorcery. Target opponent gains control of target permanent you control. This is a sorcery version of Zedru the Great-Hearted, who is an America Colors EDH commander who can gift your stuff to your opponents. I can see this being played with Demonic Pact. As you play Demonic Pact, pick all of them except lose the game, and then gift it to your opponent. Because technically it's still the same copy because it hasn't left the battlefield. The only thing they can pick on their upkeep is losing the game. That's a possible thing. Or with the Priest of the Bloodright, it's like a 5-drop for a 2/2 human, and you also get a 5/5 flyer demon. But the 2/2 human has, at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 2 life, so you gift that to your opponent with this. This card is interesting. Very interesting. It has some neat little interactions that you could mess around with, but unfortunately it's not going to see much standard play. Impetuous Devils. 2 double red for a 6/1 devil. Trample haste. When it attacks, up to 1 target creature defending player controls blocks it this combat if able. At the beginning of the end step, sacrifice Impetuous Devils. This is a really good finisher, as it's 4 mana for 6 damage. You can also force one of their creatures to block this. If they have, say, a Sylvan Advocate they're not swinging with, they're kind of just keeping it back and you can't kill it, you can play this and swing with it, and then force them to block with the Sylvan Advocate, forcing the trade. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to see much play. With all the tokens we've got running around right now, 1 mana, or a 1/1 blocks this, it doesn't trade effectively, given it does have trample, so that could work to some advantage. But other than that, it's just going to be a poor lightning ball. Mirror Wing Dragon. 3 double red for a 4/5 dragon creature with flying. Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell that targets only Mirror Wing Dragon, that player copies that spell for each other creature he or she controls that the spell could target. Each copy targets a different one of those creatures. For you, this is a Zada from Battle for Zendikar. Zada Hedron Grinder. You target her with a spell, it copies it for each creature you control. This is that, but it has a huge downside for your opponents. Say you've got this card out, Mirror Wing Dragon. Your opponent targets it with Ultimate Price. Mirror Wing Dragon's ability goes in the stack, and they Ultimate Price each one of their creatures. Okay, I know some people are going to be confused about this and think, oh, if I Ultimate Price your Mirror Wing Dragon, all of your creatures get Ultimate Priced. No. Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell that targets only Mirror Wing Dragon, that player copies that spell for each other creature he or she controls. Got it? So if you try and kill this and you've got a board of stuff, you're killing your entire board. Okay? So this card is something you need to watch out for. It's going to go in all the Zada decks. Given really anything running red, as this card is super good. If you get this in sealed, it's going to be pretty solid. Standard might see some standard play. Hopefully if the meta decides to slow down. Because I love the art on it. Like, the art is just phenomenal. It reminds me of the Moon Dragon. Moonwing Drake? Moon something Drake. I'm Googling again. Moonwing Dragon. That's not it. What is that from? Moonveil Dragon from Dark Ascension. Yeah. I mean, I'd play this. Nahiri's Wrath. 3 and a red for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast Nahiri's Wrath, discard X cards. Nahiri's Wrath deals damage equal to the total converted mana cost of the discarded cards to each of up to X target creatures and or planeswalkers. So let me read that again. It deals damage equal to the total converted mana cost of the discarded cards to each of up to X target creatures and or planeswalkers. So it's kind of like a super strong Fall of the Titans, except the more cards you discard, the more targets you have. So for instance, say you've got 4 cards in your hand. One of them is a Lightning Bolt. One of them is another Nahiri's Wrath. One of them is a, I don't know, Mirror Wing Dragon, and another Mirror Wing Dragon. So if you discard all 4 of those cards, you can pick 4 targets. And the added converted mana cost of all those cards is 14. You deal 14 damage to 4 different creatures and or planeswalkers. That's how good this is. This card is super good. And then you can trigger the Madness cost in addition if you have any cards with Madness. This card is huge. It's going to see standard play. I can almost guarantee it. I don't know about it being that good in sealed because you kind of have to build around it. Modern, it might see some play. EDH is probably definitely going to see some play. I really like this card. Personally, I really like this card. Stormkirk Occultist for 2 and a red. It's a 3/2 vampire horror with trample. When it deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of your library until end of turn. You may play that card. Madness, 1 and a red. This is basically, that Acolyte. Oh my goodness, my brain is just farting all over the place. The one we got in Origins. You guys know what I'm talking about. When it enters, this ability triggers. This in the red-black vampires deck, just adding fuel is pretty good, given you can't Madness the exiled cards, but you can still cast the exiled cards, which generally the CMC on the cards in the red-black vampires deck are pretty low. I can probably see this being slotted in somewhere. So this is one part of a meld set, Handwear Garrison, 2 in a red for a 2/3 human soldier creature. Whenever Handwear Garrison attacks, put 2 1/1 red human creature tokens on the battlefield tapped and attacking. This is kind of like Brimaz, the cat guy that whenever he attacks you get a 1/1. But this you get 2. So this card is pretty good. It's a 3-drop that deals 4 damage. The next turn, if nothing gets blocked, it can open up your board state huge. Every turn you're just adding 2 more red humans, and then you play red-white humans and just pump all your humans and then win the game real quick. So this card melds with Handwear Battlements. It's a land, which is awesome. It taps for colorless. Red, tap it. Target creature gains haste until end of turn. And here's the meld ability. 3 double red, tap it. If you both own and control Handwear Battlements and a creature named Handwear Garrison, exile them, then meld them into Handwear the Writhing Township. So first of all, the haste ability on a land. Kind of like Kessig Wolfrun, because I'm pretty sure that gave haste and trample. I could be wrong. I think I might be wrong. Sorry. But 1 red, tap it to give a creature haste. Pretty good. Now, when this thing melds with Handwear Garrison, it becomes Handwear the Writhing Township. This card, super scary. It's a 7/4 legendary creature Eldrazi Ooze with trample and haste. And whenever it attacks, you put 2 3/2 colorless Eldrazi horror creature tokens on the battlefield tapped and attacking. This is terrifying. Okay? So, the earliest you can meld this is turn 6. Because you have to pay the 3, the 2 red, and then tap the land to meld this. But On turn 6, when you get this out, it's swinging for 13. Because itself is 7, and then the 2 colorless Eldrazi's are 3/2. That's a lot of damage. Now, Red-White Humans has like a super strong late game that can definitely put some hurt on people if you're not ready for it. This card is super flavorful. The land and the creature becoming one is terrifying, and the art is super disgusting if you look at it really closely. I'm just blown away. I am blown away at Wizards for what they've done, and I am super happy. Super happy. Red's pretty good. Green review, hype hype. We're starting off strong, boys. Starting off super strong. Eldritch Evolution, 1 double green for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast Eldritch Evolution, sacrifice a creature. Search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less, where X is 2 plus the sacrificed creature's mana cost. Put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Exile Eldritch Evolution. This thing is a birthing pod on roids, people. Steroids. I love it. I love the flavor. I love the art, even though it kind of grosses me out. But I mean, wow. Just the potential with this card is amazing. You play this in Eldrazi decks, which Reality Smasher on turn 4 feels really good. Getting anything, unfortunately, you don't get cast triggers because it just enters the battlefield. But enter the battlefield triggers. Hello? I love this card. It's going to see standard play, guarantee it. Might see modern play. I know Birthing Pod is banned in modern, and a lot of people were sad about that. So this might take its place. And I know people are going to be like, oh, well, Birthing Pod you're able to use over and over and over again. People will make this work, okay? People are crazy, and the world is full of Johnnies, and people will make this card work. I can guarantee it. Emrakul's Evangel, 2 and a green for a 3/2 human horror creature. Tap it, sacrifice Emrakul's Evangel, and any number of other non-Eldrazi creatures. Put a 3/2 colorless Eldrazi horror creature token onto the battlefield for each creature sacrificed this way. First of all, the art is super creepy. Super creepy and kind of disturbing. But this going in like Cryptolith right decks with multiple Zulaport Cutthroats out it's breathe. Bonkers. Super good. Super good. I don't know about sealed. You kind of have to build around this card, but I think the decks that can be built around this card will be really good. Yeah. Moving on. Ishkana Graph Widow is a 4 and a green for a 3/5 legendary spider creature with reach. Delirium. When it enters a battlefield, if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, put 3 1/2 green spider creature tokens with reach on the battlefield, and then you can pay 6 and a black. Target opponent loses 1 life for each spider you control. This is interesting. You know, this is really interesting. If you can find a way to bounce this, if you're playing like an Abzan deck, and you've got Eldrazi Displacer, you just keep bouncing this if you have Delirium, and then you just get a stupid loads of spiders, and then you pay 7 and drain them for that entire health bar. This is me thinking like super jank right now, but hey, you never know. It's a possibility. I like it. I like it. Permeating Mass, 1 green for a 1/3 spirit. And whenever it deals combat damage to a creature, that creature becomes a copy of Permeating Mass. The flavor, man, I can't reiterate how much I love this set for its flavor. this card spreads itself, and the flavor text matches it. Woodland Geists concluded that Emrakul would be unable to warp the denizens of the forest if the Geists got there first. So the Geists are turning everything else into Geists. And this is really strange because it goes back and forth. Your mass deals damage to their creature becomes a permeating mass, their creature deals combat damage to your creature becomes a permeating mass, and then all of a sudden every single creature on the battlefield is a permeating mass. How nutso is that? That's insane. Oh, I love it. I get super excited when stuff like this happens because they're thinking outside the box, and we're getting cards that are completely original and just are so cool. So cool, I love it. Spirit of the Hunt is 1 double green for a 3/3 wolf spirit with trample. Oh, with flash. Sorry, Freudian slip. And when it enters the battlefield, each other creature you control that's a wolf or werewolf gets +0/+3 until end of turn. Being able to flash this in and pumping your wolves and werewolves toughness to make them dodge things like Languish, Radiant Flames, even what's the Kozilek's Return? Just to kind of bump their toughness up is pretty good. We haven't seen many wolf decks running around lately just because they're basically just a slow version of white humans. They're just a slower aggro strategy, which sometimes works, but as of the past couple Star City game tournaments and the Grand Prix we know haven't worked out that well for non-white decks. I like this card. Super flavorful. The art is amazing. The wolf is it's beautiful. The art in this set. Man, I'm just gushing. Alright. Splendid Reclamation. 3 and a green for a sorcery. Return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. This is really good, and it would be even better if fetches were still in the format. Because you're just bringing back Evolving Wilds, you're bringing back lands that you discarded with anything that requires you to discard stuff. I know a lot of people are going to be flack for this, but I love this in Modern. I'm just like, if you're lacking some damage with Scapeshift, and you just need to get there, like they've gained some life, this is maybe a Scapeshift sideboard card, and a lot of people are like, oh no, it's not going to be... You know what? Just chill out, okay? A guy can dream, and a guy can hope, and I hope that this is going to see Modern play, because I think it's really good. 4 mana to return all lands from your grave. Life of the Loam? I think Life of the Loam does the same thing. I don't know. But I like this card. I like the art. Nissa's putting up a wall of binds. The art. So good. Ulvenwald Observer. This is your intro pack rare for green. 4 double green for a 6/6 Treefolk. And whenever a creature you control with toughness 4 or greater dies, draw a card. I know they're going for like the green big stompiness, but off the top of my head, there aren't, I guess, like, oh my goodness, my brain. Sylvan Advocate becomes a 4/5, so I guess things like that. But 6 mana for a 6/6, values there. Unfortunately, I don't see it'll see much play outside of Kitchen Table Magic or Sealed. There's a decent bomb in Sealed, but other than that, I don't see this going much anywhere. Green didn't have that many rares. I think they had 8 normal rares and 1 mythic. I don't know how to feel. Some of them I really like, but that's just because I'm like a green player at heart. Some of them are interesting. I really, really don't know. Alright, multicolored and colorless time. Last but certainly not least, this time I've got a special guest here with me, the mill aficionado himself, my little brother, Roberto.
Yes.
Yes, alright. Let's get started then. Bloodhall Priest, 2 black-red for a 4/4 vampire cleric. Whenever Bloodhall Priest enters the battlefield or attacks, if you have no cards in hand, Bloodhall Priest deals 2 damage to target creature or player. Madness for 1 black-red. This card's interesting. Being able to cheat this out on turn 3 with a Ravenous Bloodseeker discarding it trigger would be okay. Doesn't have flying, so you're not going to get through. It'd be super good if it had flying. Excuse me, but the enter the battlefield triggers and the attack triggers, if you have no cards in hand, I think are pretty decent. In my experience playing against red-black vampires, they often run out of cards by like turn 5. If they have a decent hand, they'll be empty-handed by turn 5. So just getting those, extra 2 damage through could definitely make the game. Robert, do you have any comments?
Well, I don't know. I feel like if you're top decking and you're just out of cards at that point, you either got them down to like a really decent range to kill them, or this card's just not that good.
No?
I just don't like it that much.
Not a fan?
No.
Not a fan. All right, moving on. Gisa and Geralf. I know you're gonna.
Yeah.
I know you're gonna like this one. 2 blue-black for a 4/4 legendary creature human wizard. When Gisa and Geralf enters the battlefield, put the top 4 cards of your library into your graveyard. During each of your turns, you may cast a zombie creature card from your graveyard. First of all, 4 for a 4/4 body. Really good end of the battlefield trigger if you're in the blue-black zombies. And also the ability to cast a Fleshbag Marauder from your graveyard every turn.
Well, it's no Undead Alchemist, but definitely probably one of my favorite cards of the set just because it's zombies.
Just because you're a huge zombie fanboy.
And the guy in the back looks like the guy from The Walking Dead with the eye patch.
Oh, Geralf kind of looks like Rick.
Governor.
He looks he looks like the governor. You're right. Good call. The art is really cool because it's like the brother and sister kind of facing down the incoming horde of disgusting tentacle-faced snake people. They look like snakes. Interesting. Because we saw Gisa and Geralf in the Commander set. Mm-hmm. I think last year, 2 years ago, as just legendary creatures. Geralf was mono blue, Gisa was mono black. Gisa was better than Geralf, if I remember. But regardless, definitely going to see some standard play. If you get this in sealed, unless you're like already in zombies, I don't see this having much of a big effect. Robert's sitting here shaking his head. In standard, I definitely think this is going to be really big.
Oh, yeah.
If you can play around it. Robert's hyped to play this. I think it's a pretty solid card. I love the art, love the makeup. Good stuff. Grim Flare. Black-green for a 2/2 human warrior with trample. And when he deals combat damage to a player, look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put any number of them into your graveyard, and the rest back on top of your library in any order. Delirium, Grim Flare gets +2/+2. Being able to make this guy a 4/4 with trample is pretty good. Kind of like Sylvan Advocate. So I can see this guy being slotted into decks, maybe with Sylvan Advocate, or if you're on the whole green-black Delirium train, the ability to look at the top 3 cards and like get rid of land that you're going to draw into if you have too many, or just get rid of creatures if you're going to draw any of them, or even just to trigger Delirium is pretty solid. I mean, this guy in sealed might not be the best, but I think if you're definitely in the Golgari Delirium style standard decks, this guy is a definite must.
I think this is so broken in like a reanimator deck. It's like if you get that combat damage in, and then you look at what the top 3, and then you just put that Embarrass rates back on top, throw that Crater Hoof in your graveyard, you're just like laughing.
Yeah, that's actually
that it's black green to like basically just look at the top and be like, yo, I'm gonna put this there and put those in the graveyard, and
It's
then next turn I'm gonna Umbera Rights that out.
it's kind of like Ojutai's his ability there. Whenever he attacks, the what's it called? Anticipate.
Yeah.
It's kind of like an anticipate trigger that also doubles as a delirium fuel.
Yeah, I think that's just good. 2-drop for a 2/2.
Yeah,
Basically, it's
with
just
with
a bear,
trample that
and
could end
then
up becoming a
be a
4/4.
4/4. It's just getting bigger as you go along, and it's decent.
Yeah, that's not bad.
It's broken.
Speaking of broken, Heron's Grace Champion is 2 green white for a 3/3 human knight with flash and lifelink. And when it enters the battlefield, other humans you control get +1/+1 and gain lifelink until end of turn.
That's stupid. And I hate it.
As if green white humans needed more fuel. The pump and the lifelink is so strong. Definitely going to see standard play. You get this in sealed. This is going to be probably your.
It's a 3/3 flash lifelink right there for 4. Which
Yeah.
is, sealed is decent.
But the ability to pump your team and give your team lifelink
Yeah.
on a block could you're swinging the game. You're swinging the game. If you're both pretty low and they're going for like a game-winning swing and you flash this in, give your team lifelink, block decent enough to kill them on the backswing, and now you've got like a cushy life total.
Well, also, if you're in those games where it's just like, if you swing first, they're going to kill you on the backswing, or if you just don't have enough damage, you just flash it in and be like, yeah, I just pumped my team for like an extra 5 damage. You'd probably get somebody with that easily.
Yeah, definitely. I could definitely see this having some standard play. This is one of my personal favorite cards of the set. Spell Queller. 1 white blue for a 2/3 flash flying spirit. When it enters the battlefield, exile target spell with converted mana cost 4 or less. And when Spell Queller leaves the battlefield, the exiled card's owner may cast that card without paying its mana cost. I think this is pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm.
It's a spirit. It has flash itself, so it's like you don't even need rattle chains to put it out there. Being able to stop a Coco on curve and delay it a turn, I think is really sweet. Or even being able to play around, say you've got creature counter spells in your hand and they're playing non-creature spells. You flash this in, delay it a couple turns until you have a counter spell. Or even if they play a bigger spell later that's scarier than the one that's exiled with Spell Queller, and you Spectral Shepherd, so you pay 3 and bounce Spell Queller and then cast it again while the triggers are on the stack. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Also, if you have like, I don't even know, like in Modern, you like Cloud Shift this, like bounce it, and they just tapped out to play the card without paying its mana cost.
Yeah.
I don't know. You could mess with people really, like a lot.
This is if you bounce it, it's kind of like a pseudo possibility storm. Or no, not possibility storm. Is it possibility storm?
Possibility storms. Whenever you cast something, you exile the top card of your library until you hit like.
There's another card that's just like whenever you cast a spell, it gets exiled under this thing, and then when you cast another spell, you get to cast the other spell.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was MTG Goldfish did a really jank deck about it, but that's
anything
kind of
with
like
flash is good.
Yeah, anything with flash is pretty good. It's a spirit, so it fits really well into the spirits deck. Moving on.
I don't know.
Tameo Field Researcher. 1 green, white, blue. Tameo Planeswalker. 4 loyalty. Her +1 is choose up to 2 target creatures until your next turn. Whenever either of those creatures deals combat damage, you draw a card. -2, tap up to 2 target non-land permanents. They don't untap during their controller's next untap step. -7, draw 3 cards. You get an emblem with you may cast non-land cards from your hand without paying their mana cost.
Omniscience in standard.
Omniscience in standard. We can cry now. And it's in Bant colors, which is like... And it's a 4-drop in Bant colors.
I like this card. I love it, but it's playing white and green, which is like against the rules for me. Therefore...
Alright, let's just go through her abilities. Her first one... Choose up to 2 target creatures. Whenever they deal damage, draw a card. You can choose your opponent's creatures. Choose up to 2 target creatures. So you can put this on your opponent's creatures and then dare them to swing.
Yeah, it's just giving you card advantage.
Attack me,
It's
and I
better
draw
than
cards.
health. Yeah.
That's basically what that is. That alt is, or that +1 is just super oppressive. Straight away, that probably should be her negative ability because that is super good. Her -2, tap up to 2 target non-land permanents. You just tap creatures.
Yeah.
You're just tapping down creatures. I mean,
It's Frost Breath or whatever that thing is, right? You tap 2 of them, they don't untap.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I don't know. I think that's pretty bad for -2.
yeah. I think maybe they should have switched the top 2 abilities. Her -7 though.
Yeah, that's stupid.
Draw 3 cards and then get an Omniscience emblem.
Yeah.
Being able to like what? So you play this on turn 4. She automatically goes to 5 loyalty. Okay. Turn 5, she's up to 6. Turn 6, she's up to 7. Turn 7, you're gonna alt her and drop Kozilek, Ulamog, and Emrakul. Cast triggers without paying their mana cost.
And have counter spells in your hand for free.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're done.
This alt
Wins games. But then again, you can whiff.
But then again, there's always the almighty whiff.
You can't wait for somebody to alter and be like, I have 4 lands in my hand.
Yeah, exactly.
Draw 3
Yep.
more lands. And now I just lost the game.
Yeah. Given I highly doubt you're going to get many of those situations.
Well, knowing me, it happened to me. So.
Yeah, knowing you, that's why you're not going to play her, right?
Yeah, nope.
Right. But, I mean, she's going to see standard play. She might see modern play, even. She might. I mean, I don't know if there's many bad decks running in modern. Boggles. Boggles is going to play her. Boggles is going to play Tamio.
Well, you +1 on your Boggle.
You +1 on your Boggle, and then you tap down their blockers. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Easy peasy.
Ulrich of the Kralin Horde. 3 red-green for a 4/4 legendary human werewolf. Whenever this creature enters the battlefield or transforms into Ulrich of the Kralin Horde, target creature gets +4/+4 until end of turn. At the beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were cast last turn, transform him. Just looking at the front side, it's 5 mana for a 4/4 that pumps things +4/+4.
That hurts.
That's pretty good.
Feels bad, man.
Feels good, man.
No.
Because even giving this guy +4/+4,
What, when he enters?
when he flips back,
Oh, right. Yeah.
when he flips into werewolf mode and then somebody casts 2 spells and he flips back and you swing for 8.
Yeah.
With this guy alone, he doesn't have trample, which kind of sucks. But once again, you can play the 3-drop flash enchantment that gives all your wolves and werewolves +1/+1 and trample.
Or, if we go back to that, if you play, like, black, red, green, you got that 2-drop with the 2/2 trample guy with the delirium +2/+2, right?
Yeah, if you're playing Jund.
You could always get there.
Why would... Oh, yeah, make it a 6/6 with trample.
Well,
Or an 8/8. 8/8 with trample, yeah. But I don't think you want to play werewolves and delirium in the same deck. Although I could be wrong. The meta could shift. Anyways, no spells were cast last turn. He flips into Ulrich Uncontested Alpha, who's a 6/6. Whenever this creature transforms into Ulrich Uncontested Alpha, you may have it fight target non-werewolf creature you don't control. I think that's pretty bad. For the legendary creature the legendary werewolf that everyone was waiting for to put into a werewolf deck, EDH deck, and we get it fights.
Well, especially in EDH, people are trying to protect their stuff. And, like, if you can pit fight somebody's win con in EDH and just kill it, I think it's just good.
Yeah, but it's a flavor loss. Because his title is Uncontested Alpha, which means nobody messes with him. So, what a better thing would have been is, when he transforms into this guy, he deals damage equal to his power to target creature.
Well, it's uncontested until he meets something that's going to contest it.
Yeah, but the fight is... I mean, it could be good. It could be good.
For its human side.
You play it for its human side, which is the complete opposite of what werewolves want to do. And this is the same issue with Huntmaster, right? You want Huntmaster to continually flip back and forth to gain you life, deal damage, and get wolf tokens, Where all other werewolves, you don't want them flipping back to their human side. Unless you're playing Recruiter, Duskwatch Recruiter, which you can utilize both sides. But I mean, most werewolves are just like a vanilla 2/2 on one side or vanilla 3/3 on one side, and they flip, and all of a sudden the creature's like a 4/4 with first strike or double strike or trample or just so much better on the backside that you don't want them flipping back over to the human side. And that's what this standard werewolves is struggling with now, because in original Innistrad we had like Immerwolf, which gives all wolves and werewolves +1/+1, and there was another wolf that I think it was your werewolves didn't flip back. Mm-hmm. They were permanently werewolf-sided. So, and those decks didn't play Huntmaster because you want Huntmaster to continually flip. So Huntmaster was just played in like Jund and those kind of decks where you could gauge whether you wanted to play spells in your turn or not. Huntmaster is just a win card. This guy, you want him flipping back and forth because you want the pump and you want the creature removal and you want this and that and this and that. But other werewolf decks, if you're flipping your creatures back and forth, you're just losing damage. Mm-hmm. You're just losing damage on the swing. Moving into our colorless cards here, I love this guy, Decimator of the Provinces. He's a 10-drop, 7/7 Eldrazi Boar with Emerge, 6 triple green. When you cast Decimator of the Provinces, creatures you control get +2/+2 and gain trample until end of turn. He himself has trample and haste.
If only he came in with the +2/+2.
He's still a 7/7 with trample and haste.
But what if a 9/9?
What if a 9/9 with trample and haste hit the board? That'd be scary.
I mean, if you... Oh, imagine if you ult Tameo and you have a fistful of these.
You're correct.
Have fun with that.
That is disgusting. I think it's good. The emerge cost is for all the emerge costs are like really value on these things. Being able to have out value low creatures and even like those middle range creatures that you can sack for this thing, because you can only sack one creature to pay for the emerge cost. So you can't like wipe your board and then do it, which I know some people are thinking about. You sack one creature and then reduce the emerge cost. But still, if you emerge this, you're probably going to be reducing 3 off of it. Yeah. 3 or 4. So dropping this guy for 5 or 6 mana instead of 10 is huge. Huge. If you're running like Eldrazi, like green-red Eldrazi decks, and you go like Matter Reshaper on turn 3, Thought Knot on 4, Reality Smasher on 5, and then on 6, you sack the the Matter Reshaper, get the Death Trigger, which you could hit a land or another creature, and then play this.
Mm-hmm. You're probably dead.
All of a sudden, Reality Smasher's a 7/7, Thought Knot Seer's a 6/6, and you're just getting beats.
Well, the fact is that it gives them +2/+2 and trample.
And trample.
So you just turned your thing from, oh, look at your wall of creatures, oh no, you're going to block everything, just chunk block it, into, go ahead, block it, you're still dead.
And the thing I love with this is in tangent with Causal X Return, which is when you cast a creature with converted mana cost 7 or greater, you can exile it from your graveyard and deal 5 damage board wide.
Oh, okay, that's done.
All of a sudden, you layer the triggers so that his +2/+2 goes off before this. So your Thought Knot Seer survives with a 6/1.
You just probably wipe their board.
And you wipe their board, and you get in for, if it's a 6 and a 7 and a 7, is that 20?
6, 14, yeah, 20.
Yeah.
Yep.
Boom. You're just done. Distended Mindbender. I love this guy. I love all the Eldrazi cards. They're so sick. He's an 8-drop for a 5/5 Eldrazi Insect. Emerge 5 double black. When you cast Distended Mindbender, target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose from it a non-land card with converted mana cost 3 or less, and a card with converted mana cost 4 or greater. That player discards those cards. He laughs. I'll play this in Modern. I play a black-white Eldrazi deck in Modern, which is very hand control-y. I can drop this on turn 3.
Yeah.
I drop this on turn 3.
That's annoying.
Because it's like turn 1 Inquisition, turn 2 Wasteland Strangler, which is the 3-drop. Next turn, sack that, reduce this to a 4-drop emerge cost, and if I've got Eldrazi Temple, play this thing on turn 3.
And
I
then
pick
just
2 cards from your hand, and I've got a 5/5.
It's. I hate cards that just pick stuff out of my hand. It just makes me really sad. Like, I don't want to play that.
Unless you're playing zombies.
Yeah, and then you're just done.
Yeah. I like this card. It's got a fat body.
I like the art on it too.
The art. Somebody was commenting online. They're just like, man, if this card had flavor text, it'd be like, hey, dude, relax, but there's a bug on your head. That's a huge bug. Elder Deep Fiend. It's an 8-drop for a 5/6 Eldrazi Octopus with Flash.
Ooh.
Emerge 5 double blue. When you cast it, tap up to 4 target permanents.
Whoa, 4. I didn't see the 4. I just saw target permanent, and I was just like, oh, that's not that good. And then I read
4. 4 target permanents.
And then, yeah, you got a 5/6 with Flash. Anything with Flash is just, in my eyes, just really good.
Well, yeah, you flash this in. Opponent's like, go to combat. Before we go to combat, after you pass priority, I'm gonna flash this in and tap down all your attackers.
Well, yeah, no, it's at the end of their turn. You have a wall, they have a wall. You just be like, okay, end step, I'm going to sack this, flash it in, I'm going to tap down your 4 creatures. I'm going to have a 5/6 on my turn that's going to be coming at you with my army as well.
Yeah.
This card wins games, I think.
This card's pretty good.
Ew.
Oh boy, Emrakul, the Promised End. She's a 13-drop for a 13/13 legendary Eldrazi creature. She costs 1 less to cast for each card type among cards in your graveyard. And when you cast Emrakul, you gain control of target opponent during that player's next turn. After that turn, that player takes next turn. She has flying, trample, and protection from instants.
Yeah, I don't like the protection from instants part, but...
I mean, in a game right now where we have things like Sinister Concoction, which is that enchantment that you can play on turn 1, and then later do a bunch of things and kill a creature.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, Ruinous Path.
Ruinous Path.
That's sorcery.
It's sorcery.
Everybody thought that was garbage until now.
Clip Wings.
Yeah.
Sack a creature with flying. Because it targets the player.
Well, then again, if somebody casts this and you have a Ruinous Path in their hand, I doubt that they're going to keep it there when they take the next turn.
Exactly.
So you need to top deck that real good.
Or just have contingency plans. Because you're going to have to play around her.
Yeah.
You have to play around Emrakul. If they're playing some sort of Delirium deck, you have to look out.
Yeah.
Because she feeds off of the Delirium. So if you're not careful, she's going to have a 13/13 and she's taking your next turn.
Yeah.
Given you can have stuff like Sinister Concoction sideboard.
Yeah.
If you're playing black, Summary Dismissal, which you've already covered. The blue 4-drop.
Counter it and all.
Exile target spell and counter all abilities on the stack. Broken. It's really good. Really good. I love it.
Yeah, it's counter all spells and all other.
No, it's exile. Is exile all spells and counter all abilities.
Yeah.
It's like counterflux. It's a better counterflux. Eternal Scourge is a 3-drop for a 3/3 Eldrazi horror. You may cast it from exile, and whenever it becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, exile it.
See, you had me thinking that this was just gonna die and go to exile.
I know, so did I. I thought that too.
Yeah, no, it just dies and it's gone.
It dies and it's gone. Yeah, no, I thought it was better than that.
I thought it was better than that. So, hype is let down.
Definitely. It's a vanilla 3/3, but if it gets targeted, you can recast it again. Yeah. I don't know. Lupine Prototype. 2 mana for a 5/5 artifact creature, Wolf Construct. It can't attack or block unless a player has no cards in hand.
Oh yeah, you remember that black-red vampire that you're talking about? How it's got like no cards in your hand, does 2 damage? Yeah. I'm gonna slap you with this here wolf in a mech suit.
Wolf in a mech suit? Like Gundam meets some werewolf fantasy. I can see this being played in 8-rack in Modern. Mm-hmm. You get your opponent's hand to nothing and then just drop this.
Why don't you play this in your Modern? You just pick apart their hand and then...
Yeah, but it's not an Eldrazi. I don't play it.
Can't attack, block. Oh, never mind.
Unless a player. So it counts you 2.
Oh, A player.
A player. It counts you 2. So if you're in top deck mode, But if you're picking apart your opponent's hand like
Maybe you
8
play
rack,
this with the black-red vampires. Maybe I was wrong all along.
maybe.
Maybe the vampires put the werewolf in the mix.
It was actually Geralt, if you read the...
Oh. Who reads those anyway?
Who reads flavor text? Moving on. Soul Separator. It's a 3-mana artifact. 5 mana, tap this, sack this. Exile target creature card from your graveyard. Put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of that card, except it's a 1/1, it's a spirit in addition to its other types, and it has flying. Put a black zombie creature token onto the battlefield with power equal to that card's power and toughness equal to that card's toughness.
What? That's too much text for me, therefore I need a visual.
I'm out. So what this card does is actually really cool. So if you have a card in your graveyard that you really like, say you've got Emrakul in your graveyard, they've managed to kill it. It sucks. No, actually, let's go Ulamog, because Ulamog is scarier. You activate this, sack this. You get a 1/1 flying Ulamog with all the abilities. So it's indestructible, and whenever it attacks, they mill 20.
Yeah.
And you've also got a 10/10 black zombie.
Oh.
It takes your cards from your yard, splits them, and then you get 2 halves. That is kind of funny.
Yeah.
I kind of like it.
You know what? I would like this Consuming Aberration, because, yeah, you get a 1/1, right? But then again, you get whatever their graveyard is in a zombie, right? But then you also have the 1/1 that's going to mill whenever you put down a spell.
Yeah.
It's going to mill them for a land. I'm going to put this in EDH. I think this is an EDH card.
It seems really snazzy, and unless you build it in Modern, if you draw this in Sealed, you're in trouble, I think. Unless you also get, Emrakul, you're kind of in trouble. You might see this in Standard in some really jank decks. I doubt this is going to see Modern play unless they're playing something where they can get, Grizzlebrand into their yard. If you're playing against Reanimator.
Oh, yeah, Grizzlebrand.
Grizzlebrand would be kind of decent. Except, not really, because the lifelink and the card draw would be on the 1/1.
Yeah, but then again, who cares? Who needs a life total when you just drew, 7 or whatever?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's fair. Stitcher's Graft. It's a 1-drop equipment artifact. Equipped creature gets +3/+3. Whenever equipped creature attacks, it doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Whenever Stitcher's Graft becomes unattached from a permanent, sacrifice that permanent.
Oh, there goes that idea. I was just thinking, I'll just switch it over to a different creature. But no, maybe in zombies this would be good. You throw that onto your Relentless Dead or whatever that guy's called. That whenever it dies, you return a zombie. You swing with it for 5, and then you swap it over to a different zombie, and then it dies, and then you pay whatever to bring back another zombie.
That's actually not bad. I never thought about that. I guess any zombie deck that uses the reanimating.
Yeah.
With Gisa and Geralf even.
Well, any zombie deck, it doesn't matter if your zombies die, because they're just going to come back next turn anyway.
Yeah. That's not bad. That's not bad.
Always waiting for good equipment.
And last but not least, we have Gyre Reach Sanitarium. It's a legendary land, which taps for colorless. Pay 2, tap it. Each player draws a card, then discards a card.
Ooh, you know what I just got? Notion Thief. Right there. We're both going to draw a card. Oh, wait, I'm going to draw 2, and you're going to discard a card. Oh, wait.
EDH.
Would it be? Then yeah, because if they were to draw,
then
you draw, and then they would discard a card.
So they just discard a card, and you draw
you
2 cards and
discard a card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gets even better when you're playing with multiple people.
Oh, yeah. It does. Ooh.
Ooh, yeah.
That's
yeah.
rude.
It's Jace +1.
Yeah, it is.
But worse, because you have to discard a card.
Yeah.
But at the same time, better, because they're all discarding a
Yep.
card. Yeah. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Well, folks, that's all she wrote. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope there was a decent amount of salt in here for you guys. If not, I'm sure you will be getting uber amounts at your pre-releases if you are attending a pre-release event in your area. Stay tuned, because I'm probably going to be doing another pre-release GoPro video set. So until then, stay salty, my friends.